Pete Hegseth has been nothing but a walking political liability for Donald Trump since day one. The start of this administration proved one thing. When you hire a Fox News cabinet, you get Fox News results, and you get Fox News leaks constantly. But the leaks haven't stopped for Pete Hegseth just because he's upgraded from texting about war plans to actually committing war crimes. It's no surprise, honestly, he is hands down the most incompetent person we have ever seen placed in a presidential cabinet. And that is exactly why Donald Trump is ready to cut him loose and abandon Hegseth, especially now that a newly leaked video exposes Hegseth admitting to his own criminality. That's right, he is incriminating himself all over again, and we are going to break it all down. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy the channel, hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into the leaked video that has Trump in a panic and ready to ditch Pete, I want to start with what Rachel Maddow had to say about the beginning of the end for the Secretary of Defense.
But there's not a story that I've more desperately wanted to talk to you about since this Post story just blew this unbelievable fact out into public view, and I wonder your thoughts on all of it.
I am disturbed by this, I think, as everybody is. I was taking a step back from this, Nicole. I don't understand why we're going to war with Venezuela. And I'm not sure the administration has even bothered to try to come up with anything even internally coherent in terms of explaining why Trump has proclaimed that we are at war with Venezuela. My sense is that they wanted to use the Alien Enemies Act to illegally deport people, arrest and deport people from this country that actually weren't subject to deportation. They decided the Alien Enemies Act was a way to do that. They then realized the Alien Enemies Act required a war, so then they declared a war. Then they needed a reason for the war, so then they reverse engineered some sort of reason for the war. Ostensibly right now, the reason for the war is to stop drug trafficking into the United States. Today, the man convicted of the largest volume of drug trafficking in the history of the United States was just freed from prison by Donald Trump, the former president of Honduras. So clearly, if that's the area of focus, that isn't the justification for this war. So what are we doing there in the first place? Why are we blowing out of the water and killing people in boats with outboard motors, some of which aren't even pointed towards the United States, let alone verified to have drugs on them, let alone even if they were coming to the United States and they had the capacity to reach the United States and they were filled with drugs, why isn't it possible to just interdict them the way that we do with the Coast Guard, where you go and take the drugs and then put those people on trial and investigate and then follow the drugs to their source of origin and then take care of it there? Like, none of this makes any sense. It feels like they bumbled themselves into a profoundly incoherent and illegal situation in which they decided the one true benefit they were getting out of all of it is that they were getting video game style visuals to play on Fox News and put on TikTok. And they liked that. So now they have put this admiral, the commander of Southern Command, every senior officer in that command, and all of the servicemen and women who serve there in the position of potentially being held liable for murder or war crimes until the statute of limitations on those matters runs. And I don't even know what it would be. And by backing and bumbling and shambolically rambling themselves into this mess, I'm less worried about the fate of the bad guys who have gotten us here than I am about the good people who've been put in the way of this mess. And from Admiral Bradley on down. And it's a catastrophe. I think Pete Hegseth, it's impossible to imagine that he survives this as Secretary of Defense. I think he must resign, and I think Republicans will ask for that ultimately once they investigate this. But this is a disaster for this generation of people serving in the United States military. And that is
It is absolutely impossible at this stage for Hegseth to dodge accountability in any way, shape, or form. As for Donald Trump, I honestly don't know why he wouldn't throw Hegseth under the bus right now. Loyalty to Pete is getting him absolutely nothing, and it's only serving to fracture the MAGA coalition even further, which I think is what Donald Trump is actually worried about the most. That, and of course, trying to keep the lid on the Epstein files. But he realizes that even Republican members of the House and Senate are demanding a full investigation into Pete Hegseth, and that is a headache he simply cannot handle while his poll numbers are hitting historic lows. So Donald Trump has zero fealty to Hegseth. There is no reason to defend him, especially when a resurfaced, leaked video exposes Pete Hegseth admitting that the crimes he committed should land him in a jail cell. The article continues now. The political price of Mr. Hegseth's tenure at the Pentagon has increased. As investigations mount into the legality of strikes that have killed scores of people in the waters off Venezuela, his take no prisoners, leave no survivors approach has led even Republican supporters to demand answers. So far, few have been forthcoming, with claims flying that Mr. Hegseth's orders might have led to the commission of war crimes, if not by the secretary, then by senior commanders following his general orders. Mr. Trump sounded over the weekend like he was putting some distance between himself and his defense secretary. Of course, Donald Trump is scrambling to put distance between himself and Hegseth. There is literally nothing Donald Trump hates more in this world than accountability when he's the one screwing up. But this whole Hegseth thing, as Republicans are calling it, is insane. We have been through so many scandals with Pete Hegseth that him committing actual war crimes is just the Hegseth thing now. I'm almost casually referring to it like, yeah, we know the Hegseth problem. I really don't think we can afford to get numb to this. And that is an admission by myself that we have, and I'm sorry for that. We need to be hair on fire about this, not in a ridiculous freaking out way, but because Pete Hegseth is a murderer. He killed people. That is the reality right now. This isn't some political football we can toss back and forth while debating if MAGA is bad or not. No, Pete Hegseth is a murderer, and he will continue to be a war criminal carrying out war crimes unless there are severe consequences. And that is why I think Donald Trump finally understands that consequences are coming one way or another. Either Republicans will investigate Hegseth, he'll ask them to defend him, and they'll resign in protest, or Donald Trump can just give him the boot himself. But frankly, it doesn't matter, because even if he does, Democrats are still going to investigate Pete Hegseth, and I think we need to be very direct about what we want those investigations to look like. Republicans only respond to intimidation. Whether it's Trump posting on Truth Social threatening to primary them, or the threat of a shellacking in the midterms, Republicans speak one language. Fear, it's true, they are scared, insecure, and spineless, so they need to be forced in the right direction. That doesn't mean they'll happily investigate Hegseth, but they better know consequences are on the way. Democrats need to be open about this. Yeah, we don't stand for war crimes. If saying we don't believe in unilaterally, unjustifiably, and indiscriminately killing people makes us radical liberals, then fine. Go for it. Pitch that narrative. I dare you, please. Because as much as Jesse Waters wants to cry that Democrats are defending narco-terrorists, Donald Trump just pardoned a guy who brought 400 tons of cocaine into the country and poisoned countless Americans. And he pardoned him. So try making that argument without sounding like the absolute ghoul that you are, Jesse Waters. They can't do it. I also don't think Democrats should just cede this ground and let Republicans define us as weak. We should absolutely say, just because we hate war crimes doesn't mean we love drug traffickers. And look, Trump is pardoning them. We shouldn't run away from this thinking, oh, if we call out Hegseth, people might think we aren't tough on crime. No, people are smarter than that. Make the argument. Make it clear that Republicans will be held accountable because this is their mess to clean up. That is exactly what Adam Schiff was talking about. Investigations are coming in the Senate, and that's why I had this to say right here.
That all of this campaign, this military campaign, is unlawful, unconstitutional. Congress has not authorized these actions. There's no imminent threat of invasion or attack from Venezuela. So all of this is unlawful. But if there was an order to deliberately kill these two survivors, that moves unlawful, unconstitutional into the realm of war crimes. And it was interesting watching that press conference with the president and Hegseth, where he appears to read carefully worded language along the lines of the admiral took action to destroy the ship and eliminate the threat. And I think the reason he worded it that way, the reason probably lawyers told him to word it that way, is they want to, I think, try to distinguish, oh, no, they weren't trying to kill the survivors. They were just trying to destroy the boat they were on. That's a very flimsy read, I think, to try to hang their hat on. If indeed Hegseth ordered for all these people to be killed, and the admiral acted on that order, whether Hegseth was in the room or he wasn't in the room, and I think you're right to be entirely skeptical of any claim Hegseth makes about what he knew or didn't know. But if he gave the order to kill everyone, then he is responsible for the killing of those survivors and a potential war crime. I think the only way we get to the bottom of this is by analyzing the video, audio if it exists, but also having the admiral testify and others who were present testify so that we can hear firsthand what did they see, what did they know, what were the orders, what action did they take.
Well, we just heard Roger Wicker, the Senate Armed Services Committee chairman, say in no uncertain terms that he and the committee are going to see every bit of video and they're going to hear every bit of audio. He's determined to get all of that evidence, and he does have the power to do that.
He certainly has the power to do it, and I hope that he will. I think he seems very serious about it, and I know Roger. I think he's determined. Will the administration provide it? Will they need to somehow subpoena it? Are they willing to go to the mat to fight the administration for that? Are they going to go beyond privately interviewing the admiral? Will they conduct a public hearing? Will they allow the public to see the video and audio so that it's not described to us by third parties? There's a lot of variation in what kind of oversight, how rigorous it can be. If it's going to enjoy the public confidence, I think it has to be done out in the open. And I hope on a bipartisan basis that they will persevere and insist on public hearings and public disclosure of all the evidence.
We need to be aggressive on this issue. We need to be aggressive in calling out Pete Hegseth. I sense some queasiness within the party right now about impeaching him if he doesn't resign or get fired. I will not tolerate that. Pete Hegseth is a criminal. He should be impeached. I hate this idea of, oh, well, it might not be politically expedient. Let's focus on other stuff. No, we should do what is right. If Pete Hegseth broke the law and committed impeachable offenses, he should be impeached. It is that simple. And we are going to keep saying that on this show. If you want to support that, hit that subscribe button, leave a like. If you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. Until next time.